Hey guys, welcome to a new movie review. Today I'm going to be talking about the film Late Night. It's a new independent film starring Emma Thompson and Mindy Kaling. I heard about this film, I would say earlier in the year. I was just kind of intrigued by it. I was intrigued by the concept of it. I heard good reviews about it coming out of a film festival that it was in earlier in the year. So I'm glad that to see that it had like a wide release eventually, and it got it during the summertime. So I was really anticipating this film quite a bit, and I got around to seeing it recently. So if you haven't heard of Late Night, if you have no clue what it's about, like I said, it is an independent film, so it's didn't really have a lot of money being made and stuff like that, but it does have a lot of talent that went into it. So you can tell that like studios like Amazon and stuff like that got involved with it, probably gave it some more money than it probably originally had when it first started out as a production and stuff like that. But in Late Night, you guys, it's about a late night talk show host played by Emma Thompson, and her show is struggling. It's being threatened to be taken off the air by the network that it's shown on. Um, People aren't thinking it's funny anymore. It's just kind of old and stale. This talk show host doesn't have a social media page of any kind. So basically, her boss comes out one day after the show's done and said, "We're kind of thinking about taking your show off the air. We have a replacement in mind. We really don't want to fund it anymore. We really don't want to air it on the television anymore." So this really upsets Emma Thompson's character. So her best way to go about this is to hire a new writer, new talent, completely approach the show differently. And so her agent goes out and hires this young writer played by Mindy Kaling. She really wanted a female writer since she had almost all male writers over the course of the show's history. So she really wanted to switch it up, get a female writer, really get a new gender in the room and stuff like that when it came to the writing of the show. And so Mindy Kaling comes along, and she worked at a chemical plant. Doesn't really have a lot of comedy experience, but likes to do a lot of like amateur stand-up shows and stuff like that. So she has a little bit of experience there, and at least her character does in the movie anyway. And basically, completely wants to revamp the show. Wants to have a social media page for the show. Wants to do different kind of jokes, different kind of subject matters covered. Completely change her opening monologue from when the show starts and stuff like that. So at first, Emma Thompson's really not about this because she's really strict with the rules. She really likes to have her own show, makes it go her way and stuff like that. So over the course of this movie, she has to realize that by continuing doing what she's been doing over all these years, the show is not going to stay afloat for very long. The network will take the show down if change doesn't happen. So throughout the course of this movie, her and Mindy Kaling kind of go back and forth, throwing ideas around, really kind of making sure that Emma Thompson gets to kind of do her own show and it's still her thing, but still kind of taking those approaches and those ideas from Mindy Kaling and pushing them into full swing. And the movie has really touching messages on the workplace, the highs and lows of a job. When somebody gets excited for a job and something bad happens, that can be really heartbreaking for them and things like that. So Late Night covers, it's not just about this movie with a struggling talk show host. It really is about several different things, and I think that's what I liked about it so much. So let's go over some positives and negatives as to why I really like this film and why I possibly think, at least at the moment anyway, it could be one of my favorite films of 2019 so far. So let's talk about this movie. So for my positives of this movie, Emma Thompson is outstanding in this movie. Her character is really not meant to be likable, but I think it's an interesting character. I like how it's this character where you can tell there's a lot of history behind her character. She's been doing this talk show for a while. She always gets her way, always has her rules, likes to do her things her way, likes to do interviews her own way, likes to choose subject matters her own way and choose the subject matters too. And so I really like how the film really establishes this character that really was kind of spoiled over the years, really kind of got to do everything her own way. And so now that that's being taken from her, I like how the film really shows just how difficult that is for her, how she's going back to drinking again, has problems, is really kind of struggling with her marriage, and a lot of things behind the scenes are going on because of the rumored cancellation of the show and stuff like that. So I really liked her character where it was handled. She wasn't just the mean lady running a talk show. There really was kind of a story behind her, and I really liked that aspect of her character. But I think my favorite character of all in this movie, and really the person that really put in the most for this movie, really kind of made the film shine, was Mindy Kaling. She wrote this film, she starred in this film, probably has the most effective message out of all the characters in this movie, has the most effective use of a character in this movie and things like that. I really liked her character in this movie. Really liked how she really kind of came from nowhere, really kind of wanted to be interested in comedy, but really didn't have a lot of experience. But she was really excited for this job, and she really kind of goes through the struggle of it wasn't exactly this dream job she thought it was going to be. She really kind of grows as a person, grows as a character. There's just so much that they do with her character, and I really like that about her. She's not just the new recruit. They really kind of develop her and really let her grow, and she's really a changed character over the course of this movie. So I just really loved everything she did in this movie, writing it and starring in it. Mindy Kaling deserves a lot of credit for this movie. John Lithgow is also in this film, and he plays Emma Thompson's husband in the movie, and he's very good in this movie. He has some sort of a Parkinson's disease-related illness, and it shows his struggle with that and kind of how he just kind of assumed that Emma Thompson wasn't caring about her show. It was just kind of something she was doing for a job. There's really a kind of an arc with his character that I really can't get into. There's something that happens in the movie that really does involve his character and things like that. So I thought he was very good in this movie, very likable. You really understood where he was coming from. There's a very, I would say, heartbreaking scene with him and Emma Thompson in this movie. Really great performances overall. Those are the three performances specifically that stood out to me in this movie. I also like how this movie really is a behind-the-scenes look at comedy writing rooms. We really never really have had a film about that yet. We've had variations of it. We've had films about like writers and people who work on shows and movies and things like that. But I really like how this film is really about kind of this writing room and kind of how they're used to doing this same thing over the years, and how now that the show is being threatened to be canceled, they really got to switch it up and think of something different. And I like how each of the characters in this room really are very different from one another, and Mindy Kaling being thrown in the mix makes it even more interesting. So I really like the writing room aspect of this movie. This is also a very funny movie. I was laughing out loud numerous times, saw it with an audience that seemed to be laughing at numerous jokes in it. It's a very funny film. The film also focuses on the evolution of comedy, how if you've been doing a talk show for 20, 30 years, those jokes you've been doing for the past 20, 30 years are not going to be as current as people who are on social media all the time and people who want to see you go out and about, really show your honesty on certain things, really show you on the streets and put you in situations that you wouldn't normally do. So I like how the film focuses on the evolution of comedy and how it's always changing over the years and how it's important to be in with the change as it's going along too. I also like the film's message on how change is hard, but it's sometimes necessary, and this is so true. There's any type of job you take on, any type of big change in your life, that change is going to be hard, whether it's a change for the better, change for the good, or a change because you have to go through that change. It's hard. It's sometimes necessary in life that you have to go through that change, even though it can be hard, even though it can be necessary. It's going to be very difficult. It's going to be things that you're going to encounter that you've never encountered before and things like that. So I really like how the film's message really brings that to the front runner. The film also displays the highs and lows of jobs, how there's times at your job where you're going to be praised, you're going to get compliments, you're going to get a raise. Your boss is going to be coming to you rather than you going to your boss. But at the same time, there's going to be lows of your job. If you're new to the place, don't run the place. I mean, you're on the bottom boat. You're on, there's just things you have to learn when you take on jobs. So I like how the film shows the highs and lows, that some days at work is going to be the best days of your life. Some days at work are going to be the worst days of your life. So I really like how the film really plays around with those ideas. For my negatives of Late Night, though, it's not a perfect film, but I really enjoyed this film. I really think it's one of the better films I've seen in 2019 so far. But for my negatives of this movie, I thought the supporting characters were very weak in this movie. Some of them are just kind of there to kind of let the scene flow, rather some of them just feel like they're there just so that Mindy Kaling's not all by herself or Emma Thompson's not all by herself. Some of these supporting characters are just kind of in and out of frame, and they really don't get to know some of them very well. So I thought that aspect of the film was very disappointing, as I really would have liked to have met and have known some of these supporting characters just as much as some of these lead characters. I also thought the third act of this film was very bumpy and overstuffed. I almost felt like they were trying to do so much by the end of the movie and wrap up so many things and wrap up so many characters that it just kind of feels overstuffed and bumpy. It doesn't feel as smooth as it could have been for that third act. Then my last negative of this movie is sometimes I feel this film favors current topics over a story. There is a lot of moments that kind of favor the Me Too movement, the whole Harvey Weinstein allegations thing. There's just a lot of scenes that really just kind of focus on a current issue and really kind of crush a character. And I feel like those kind of um, dominate the movie and they kind of over dominate the plot sometimes. Well, I really would have just have been a film that just focused on plot and characters and just really focused on what the film really was about, which was Emma Thompson and Mindy Kaling's character. There's just so many scenes where the film favors current issues instead of their characters. And I guess my biggest issue with that is 10, 20, 30 years down the road after this movie has come out, nobody's going to care about those issues anymore because they're not current by then anymore. So I really wish the film could have favored story over current issues in people's social lives. So overall, I'm going to give Late Night a 9 out of 10. It's a really great movie. I highly recommend seeing it. There's so many things to love about it. I like how we have a movie about comedy writing rooms. There is problems with it, though, not going to lie. There's things in it like the supporting characters, the third act, and current topics being favored over storyline that I think could have been improved about it. But 9 out of 10 for me. I really like the movie Late Night quite a bit. Be sure to go see this movie.